What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Scouting Combine. It is now week 11 of college football, and time is dwindling down to reach the college football playoffs. I'm joined by my co-host, Brendan Liguori. Brendan, how are you doing today?
What's going on, gentlemen? Still kind of shocked that the Dolphins were able to pull out that Thursday night football victory, but this is a college football podcast, so I'm not going to get too much into it.
Of course, and we have a special guest here today, my boy. He's a scouting consultant at NFLPA, Lorenz. Lorenz, how are we doing today, my guy?
Man, I'm doing great. Super thankful and that you guys are having me on and excited to get into it. If it were up to me, we could talk about that Robert Hunt play for a couple minutes here. And but that was one of the greatest plays, maybe the greatest play of the season. But I know it's a college football show. I'm excited about it. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. How are you today, Hussam?
I'm doing okay. It's not too early for me because I wake up around 8 a.m., want to catch, Sports Center, ESPN, see what everybody is saying, look at all those prop bets and everything, and just see what's happening in the early college football landscape so far. But Lorenz, before we really dive deep into the games and the scouting these players today, where can our viewers find you at?
Yeah, I mean, on Twitter, if you want to give me a follow, it's at Scouting Lens with a Z at the end, so Lenz. I'm out there. If not, I retweet and put up all my stuff. But I'm writing for the NFL Draft Bible on Sports Illustrated, so it's si.com/NFL/draft, where you get all of the stuff that I'm putting out, and then on the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, I write a couple things there. They're weekly. We have exciting stuff going on there. I think it's collegiate.nflpabowl.com or something. If you just type in NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, you'll see the 2 weekly articles highlighting who we're looking forward to and who impressed us last week on sides of the scout team.
Of course. So let's dive right into this and let's review what happened in week 10 a little bit. The spoiler makers. Purdue, baby. They came out in full force against Michigan State as the Spoilmakers routed Sparty 40-29. It was just a shocking win for Purdue, and they're raking off these wins against ranked teams like it's nothing. Personally, my player of the week was quarterback Aiden O'Connell. And then you take a look at Wake Forest and North Carolina, that game, the Demon Deacons just collapsed in a shocking fashion in the fourth quarter against the Tar Heels. And they scored 24 unanswered points en route to a 58-55 victory over the undefeated Demon Deacons. Brandon, what were your thoughts on that? And then we'll get to Lorenz a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, it was really a back and forth battle. It seemed like North Carolina was ahead early, then Wake Forest strikes, then here comes NC. I mean, if you like offense, this was definitely a game that you were paying close attention to a week ago. But really, Wake Forest, really one of those teams that kind of surprises you because you don't really expect them to be a top 10 football team. But, I mean, hey, here they are, and how about NC's quarterback, though, Sam? I mean, Sam Howell, everybody was coming into the season saying that he had Heisman expectations. Even coming off a 58-55 loss like that, does that kind of, end any chance for him to secure the Heisman? Or, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think Sam Howell is going to be in any contention for the Heisman. I know last season he had a lot of weapons and he had good blocking that helped him out a lot. But this season it's been all on him. Now he has delivered some amazing plays, but that Heisman moment just hasn't been there for him. He struggled early on, then found a little bit of footing. Then they've had to really rely on him to get this offense going through his legs. I called him a running back that can throw absolute rockets because that's how he's been playing so far. He's getting little to no help, and he's doing whatever he can, but it's just not enough for him. Lorenz, what are your thoughts on Howell's contention for the Heisman?
Yeah, I mean, he's someone who depending on how you thought about him, I think going into the year, it hasn't really changed. If you thought he was a potential first-round quarterback, you can probably put it down to lack of weapons. He hasn't really taken a step. He hasn't really gotten worse, I think, in his play. He's still super accurate, and he's added some mobility. He's been doing a lot on the ground, as you said, putting up some numbers as a rusher there that I maybe didn't see. But the passing, with him losing those two receivers that got drafted, Daz Newsome and Brown, it's been a little bit it's been a little bit down for him. I just think he needs to do more pre-snap. He needs to do more in terms of reading defense. If his first read isn't there, he starts to get to I don't want to say panic, but he does get he just doesn't have the poise really to step through, get to a second read, find openings in the defense. I think it would be helpful for him to come back for another year, maybe get another year with that young supporting cast, and then play up to the level that a lot of people were saying he's going to be capable of playing at.
And let's go ahead. Let's talk about the top 3 games of the weekend. We'll talk about a couple other games as well. But the big one everyone is looking at in the next 50 minutes is Michigan versus Penn State. It's a huge rivalry game. Right now the line is Michigan. They're favored by 1.5, and the over/under is 48.5. Now, the formula for success for the Michigan Wolverines this season has been effectively running the ball. They have a great run game with Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum, along with a really good O-line. But on the flip side, Penn State has no running game at all. Fortunately, the passing game with wide receiver Jahan Dotson is paying a lot of dividends. So, Lorenz, is the team who runs the ball well wins this game?
Yeah, and I mean, I think if that's the case, that's a good sign for Michigan then on the road, because they've had a great run game really all season. As you said, I think the run game is always important. Both these teams try to establish the ground game. Michigan's done a better job. I think for Michigan more so, it's really important to get going on the ground. I think Penn State, anyways, they got to have a fumble bounce their way, win the turnover battle, something like that, and then stop the run. And in addition, because once you put it solely in the hands of Cade McNamara, it's going to be tough for Michigan to win. They got to get their running backs going. So it's absolutely crucial for Jim Harbaugh and the boys to get it going on the ground, no doubt.
Yeah, speaking of Cade McNamara, they have to hope he protects the football well against a really good Nittany Lions defense, which is something he's done fairly well this season. However, that offensive line will have their hands full with the Wolverines' defensive pressure. Linebacker David Ojabo leads the Big Ten with 8 sacks. And defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, who is looking to be a really high first-round pick, is tied for second with 7. And the matchup I'm really looking forward to watching, I know a friend of the podcast, Ryan Roberts, put it out there. I'm really looking forward to see David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson go up against Rasheed Walker and Caden Wallace. It's a really nice trench battle on Lorenz. I know we used to watch trench battles on All 22. So who do you think will really win this matchup? Or will they elevate their draft stock, or will the draft stock go down?
Yeah, I thought Rasheed Walker was tested sort of 2 weeks ago, I think, against Ohio State, against their edge rushers, and Tyreek Smith was able to have a really good game against him. Tyreek Smith is a loose, twitched-up kind of rusher, similar to Ojabo. So I think that's a matchup that Rasheed Walker's really looking at and say, man, I got to step up against these kind of speed threats. I mean, I love David Ojabo. He's Nigerian by way of Scotland, so technically like half European, which you'd love to see. But he's someone who originally was a basketball guy and converted over to playing football. I mean, just an incredible talent, still just scratching the surface, but he's got first-round kind of traits similar to Odafe Owa, who went first round last year. But it's going to be tough. And obviously Hutchinson, everyone's talking about him, and rightfully so. I mean, just so much better this year at a lower weight, adding so much more as a pass rusher, which has been great to see for his projection. I thought his strength would more so be in the run game. He's now doing great work as a pass rusher. I think he's sort of looking like maybe a lesser version of the Bosa's coming out, if you want to look at a comp there. But both these guys are really good, and I expect both of them at the end of the day to have the advantage against Rasheed Walker. I just don't see Rasheed Walker as quite as good of a talent to stack up. But if he can just have a solid game, that will go a long way for Sean Clifford and this Penn State offense to at least stay in the game, put some points up, because that's going to be tough for them in this game against this tough defense. They got Daxton Hill there as well in the secondary, who we know what he can do, making plays on the football.
Oh, I definitely know what he can do. He's one of my top 5 safeties on the board right now. This safety class is looking real nice so far. It's looking
I
real
wanted to
nice.
say something too. So this honestly has to be Michigan's biggest game of the season, because if they want to have a shot at making the top 4, you're in there at number 6 right now, playing on the road today in Happy Valley. This has to be a must-win game. And also, don't forget, Michigan still has a date coming up against Ohio State. So for any Michigan Wolverine fan out there, you want to have a shot at the top 4, you have to secure victory today.
Yeah, and the line right now is 1.5. Brandon, are you taking? What's the prediction? Who are you taking today?
So with the line sitting at -1.5 towards Michigan's favor, it pretty much is going to be a pick'em game, right? I mean, you can honestly take a coin and flip it, because that's just really how close this game is going to be. But honestly, with the way Michigan's defense has played this year, I'm probably going to give them the edge. I don't think this game is going to – I mean, even if Penn State jumps out to a quick 7-0 or even 10-0 lead, I still think Michigan finds a way. I mean, they scratched out a victory against Scott Frost's Nebraska Cornhuskers, when in that game it seemed like Michigan was going to fall apart late. But the way they're able to fight back, they're going to have to do it again today on the road. So give me Jim Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines to survive 24-21. And I know Ruthie Polinsky's going to like that one, because I know she's also a Michigan graduate.
Well, she's not going to like this prediction. I wrote it in my preview. I have Penn State winning in Happy Valley 28-27. Michigan does not cover that 1.5 line, and I believe that over under that 28 plus 27 is well over that 48.5. So I'm picking the over, and I'm picking Penn State to win this game 28-27. Lorenz, what about you?
Give me the Wolverines 27-20. I just don't think Penn State is going to be able to put enough points on the board in this game. It might be a defensive battle early on. I do expect Michigan to eventually get that turnover, get a short field, to get that offense rolling for a little bit. Wouldn't be surprised if this goes into half, maybe 7-7 or something like that. But I think at the end of the day, Michigan, they're the better team. They got more talent. It's kind of a joke Penn State isn't ranked for how good their season has been. But, that's a story for another day, talking about the committee here. One more prospect I want to highlight is the defensive lineman for Arnold Ebiketie for Penn State. He's got it. He also made a big impact in that Ohio State game. That's another guy you can look for, maybe forcing a fumble. I think that's what it's really going to come down to if Penn State wants to win this game at home.
Well, now that we wrap up one of the Big Ten games, let's go ahead down to the ACC to Tallahassee, Brandon. It's a big rivalry game happening today.
So, these teams are obviously not fighting for a New Year's Six Bowl or the top 4, but anytime the Miami Hurricanes and Florida State Seminoles meet, it's always an interesting matchup to watch. So this afternoon in Tallahassee at Doak Campbell Stadium, we have the Miami Hurricanes and the Florida State Seminoles. And really for Miami, it's, watching the growth of quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, because this was a guy, when Miami lost that game against North Carolina on the road 45-42, a lot of people can say Manny Diaz's job was, in major jeopardy. He was sitting on the hot seat. A lot of people didn't really know the future of the Miami Hurricanes, because every year you're always saying, well, are the Miami Hurricanes back? But coming off now back-to-back wins, Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, I mean, those are two, especially Pittsburgh is a very good ACC team. I honestly like Miami to walk in there today and pick up yet another victory against a struggling FSU team that really doesn't have any answers at the quarterback spot. I mean, Jordan Travis could make plays with his legs, but he's not like a Lamar Jackson-like quarterback, and give major credit to the Dolphins defense for shutting down Lamar Jackson this past Thursday night. But I like the Hurricanes, and I believe the line on that game too is Miami -2.5. So they're honestly thinking that's another pick 'em / maybe even a field goal game. But I like Manny Diaz's team to secure their 6th win, secure bowl eligibility, and to pick up a victory against their major rival. Give me Miami 26, Florida State 20.
I'm really looking forward to, I'm somewhat of a Hurricanes fan. Just go ahead, beat your rival, keep riding this momentum, and maybe you have something with these Miami Hurricanes heading into next season. But if we're talking about another pick'em game, Texas A&M and Ole Miss, 7 p.m. College game day is right there in Oxford, Mississippi. Texas A&M has this at a 2.5-point favorite, and the over-under is 55.5. Now, look, this Aggies passing defense has been spectacular, and they have talent on the defense. The run defense has gotten better, and it's meshing with the offensive side of the ball that has improved their running game. At home, Ole Miss has to score quickly using a balanced offensive attack and deep passing game. It has to make A&M bite. So what does Matt Corral need to do today to cement himself as one of the premier quarterbacks in this draft and to make his case for the Heisman this season, Lorenz?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough defense. This is after Alabama, probably the toughest defense that they're going to face, and he's going to have to elevate beyond what that scheme and Lane Kiffin is able to give him. I thought he's done a great job this year playing within himself, playing within that offense that does such a great job. Unlike last year where at times, he was turning the ball over, had that rough game against Arkansas where he was forcing it. He's done a great job executing. He's going to have to execute today. He's going to have to keep doing that. But there are going to be moments where he's going to have to elevate. And it's going to be interesting if he can do that, if he can show that as a quarterback, he can be more than, I hate the word system quarterback. Let's say they're trucks and trailers, right? Can he be more than a trailer as a projection to the NFL level? Can he be someone that top 10, that Pro Bowl kind of quarterback that can put a team on his back and carry him to victory, especially through the air? I think he's shown it on the ground. Love that from him. Love that kind of competitiveness and that willingness to will his team to victory. Can he do it through the air? He's got the targets. Big Dontario Drummond's been having a good year, but this is a tough defense for
and the
the
running
Aggies,
game is
man.
helping him out too as well. Jerry O'Neal is helping him out a lot, especially, in the pass game with the screen game. He's okay, when lining up out wide, but that's not my preferred spot for him. But he can really run in between the tackles and on the outside. And Corral is a threat with his legs as well. Now, look, the big key is that they don't turn the ball over to the Aggies. But the Rebels, they don't lose that turnover battle. So Zach Calzada and that offense will have to score and score a lot. And as good as this A&M defense is, it's not going to stuff the Rebels offense and hold them for luck. I mean, Lane Kiffin is the offensive coordinator, for crying out loud. He's going to find ways to score. I'm predicting a Texas A&M victory, 37-35. Well over that 55.5 over under, and Texas A&M somewhat in a way colors. Brandon, what about you?
See, so when I watch Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss Rebels, I enjoy watching Matt Corral. I mean, he's that exciting quarterback. He honestly reminds me of when Johnny Manziel was at Texas A&M. I mean, he's always making flashy light plays, and I expect him to do a lot of those flashy light plays tonight against a very talented Texas A&M squad. Because remember, when Texas A&M played Arkansas was able to pick apart that defense. Arkansas was able to pick apart that secondary, like Lorenz mentioned. So I honestly like Ole Miss in a very high-scoring game. I mean, watching Ole Miss is like watching the Harlem Globetrotters. You never really know exactly what you're going to get, but you certainly will get something exciting. So give me Ole Miss in a major shootout. Ole Miss 44, Texas A&M 38.
Ooh, look at that. Ole Miss wins at home. Lorenz, what about you, man?
Man, I'm gonna go a bit against the grain here. I really like this Aggies defense. What they did last couple of weeks, they're really playing well. I do think they win. I do think they cover. Give me the Aggies 24-20. I love this. I love Lane Kiffin as much as the next guy, but this defense is a legit top 3-4 defense in the country, in my opinion. Talk about the Marvin Leal, Michael Clemens, the safeties there as well. It's a really good defense, and I think that A&M offense can do just enough with their running back attack. Isaiah Spiller, Devin Achane, and then getting Anaya Smith going out of the slot. You got the big
Then you
tight
got
end
Jalen
Jalen
Weidemeyer, one
Weidemeyer
of them. Yeah, exactly.
for sure. And I'm gonna say 24-20. I think this is gonna be a lower scoring game. I just don't think Ole Miss is gonna be able to put up as many points. Kind of similar to what happened in the Alabama game.
And I guess one of the bigger games in the ACC besides Miami and Florida State is the NC State versus Wake Forest. That'll decide the Coastal Division, Brian. And let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so, talking about it earlier in the show, who would have thought that the Wake Forest Demon Deacons were going to be in a spot for a potential ACC championship? I mean, you always think about the ACC and you think about Dabo Swinney's Clemson Tigers, but here we are. And, the current line right now has Wake Forest -2 with the over-under at 66.5. So odds makers are definitely expecting this to be another high-scoring football game. The Wolfpack come up with dazzling third down stops, and they also have the best run defense in the Atlantic Coast Conference, whereas the Demon Deacons offense puts up over 600 yards of offense in its sleep. NC State has a good passing game. They have hit 300 yards in its 7 past 3 games, and quarterback Sam Hartman is reining in the Demon Deacons' offense, and he gets help from Bid through his veteran receiving corps. So, Hussam, when you take a look at a matchup like this, two teams that obviously could score the football, this is a game where field goals are not going to obviously win you this game. So give me a key player that you're watching from Wake Forest, aside from Wake Forest's quarterback, because we know the dynamic ability that he's able to create with his arm. Give me maybe 2 players from NC State and another player from Wake Forest. And how do you see this game falling out? Because taking a look here, you have Wake Forest securing an 8-point victory, 42-34. So you have the Demon Deacons covering that spread with ease.
I do, and one of the big guys is, going to help Sam Hartman, Jaquiri Robertson. I mean, he's an absolute stud for Wake Forest. He's getting multiple touchdown games every single game. He's helping them out, and I believe he's going to be lined up with Cecil Power, the defensive back for the Wolfpack. But for NC State, you got to look at Devin Lloyd. I mean, he hasn't necessarily been the guy, but he's doing just enough. He's doing just enough for the NC State Wolfpack to eke by those victories and win. However, it is going to be another trench battle, and you're looking at potentially one of the top tackles in this class, and Ikem Ekwonu. I hope I said that right. But Lorenz, Ikem Ekwonu, I mean, he is scary. Very, very scary, and I mean that in a really, really good way. Go ahead, give us a little bit of a breakdown on him.
Yeah, I mean, if you like a dude that's going to put grown-ass men on the ground and is going to do it 3, 4, 5 times a game, that's Ekwonu for you. I mean, he is nasty. He's a finisher. Started off at left guard there. And just like I said, he's got a mean streak. These ACC defensive linemen do not want to play him. In the run game, he's excellent. I think he's got the foot speed to get to the second level to make those blocks in the wide zone run game. And like I said, he finishes. So, but he made the transition, went over to left tackle last season. I didn't think it looked great in pass protection. Had a lot of issues. He's a top-heavy guy, so they pull it. So he's susceptible to getting pulled. He was leaning a little bit and lunging, just too aggressive. And I think he really ironed his pass protection, his footwork out over the offseason. Still not 100% there yet, where I can say I'm completely comfortable with him being an NFL tackle, but he took the right steps, I think, to make that projection more easier, to project him out there at tackle. I think he's going to continue to get better as a pass blocker. The physical traits outside of length are really all there. If you look at foot speed and strength, he's just got to continue to develop at that left tackle spot. But man, if they run the ball with Bam Knight, go watch out for left tackle Ekwonu. He's going to be making some guys pay for trying to take him on.
Of course. And what's your prediction for this game? Does Wake Forest cover?
I'm actually going to pick NC State in this one. I'm going to go 37-34 in a real close one. But this is going to be the one that's going to be more of a shootout. I just think at the end of the day, Wake Forest, they're coming off of that disappointing loss. NC State, they've done a good job there. I think that offense is good enough. They got the 2 big wide receivers and Thayer Thomas and Emeka Emezi who can go up, get the football. I'm not super impressed with this Wake Forest defense. And this NC State defense is better than Wake Forest defense. They're going to get a stop here and there against Sam Hartman. I think Wake Forest, they've done a great job sort of overachieving what kind of talent they had on their roster. But I think against today it's going to show, and I'm taking NC State to win that one narrowly by a field goal.
Well, look at this. I love this spiciness that all the guests bring on, especially with Lorenz on these picks, because they always go against us. They always go what we say. And it's awesome, awesome, awesome. But let's go ahead and get to everybody's favorite segment of the show. Hashtag Hussam's Hot Shots. And I know Lorenz is going to love this because we have a guy here on the list who Lorenz absolutely admires. But let's go ahead, talk about Wisconsin running back Braelon Allen. Now, Braelon Allen, he's heating up these Badgers. They've been leaning on, their two backs to grind out these wins and take the lead in the Big Ten West Division. Most know of Ches Malushi, but he's out for the season. This freshman running back, Braelon Allen, I mean, he's been making a name for himself over the last month. He's not draft eligible this year or next year since he is a freshman. But last week's 129 yards in the win over Rutgers was his fifth straight 100-yard game, and they were all Badger wins. Despite only having 93 carries in the season, Allen is ninth in the conference in rushing yards. And Wisconsin hosts a struggling Northwestern Wildcats defense on Saturday afternoon. What do we like about Braelon Allen, Lorenz?
Yeah, I mean, he's a name to remember. Keep him on the radar. I mean, I don't think he expected to play as much this season as a young guy, but Wisconsin historically, I think they've been getting it done with the run game and that defense, and they've been able to get back to that, so to say, get back to that run game thanks to him, and really get their season back on track after a rough start. He's a powerful guy. He can make the big runs, and like I said, just keep him in mind. Remember the name.
Remember the name. Let's get into another one. Wide receiver out of Penn State, and Brandon. We know another wide receiver from Penn State, friend of the pod, former Miami Dolphin and Penn State wide receiver, O.J. McDuffie. Now, I have a sense McDuffie might like how Jahan Dotson plays, and I'll get into this a little bit. He's one of the best receivers in the nation. He's been putting up huge numbers as of late. And the Nittany Lions lost to Ohio State 2 weeks ago. He pulled in 11 receptions for 127 yards, and he followed that up next week in the win over Maryland with 11 catches, 242 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now he has a huge game against Michigan at Happy Valley, where Dotson will be primed to perform after having one of his worst career outings in their last meeting. Lorenz, will he get over 10-plus receptions and 100 yards?
You almost can't bet against it with him at the moment. I mean, he's been super productive. Talk about making a case for being the best senior wide receiver in the country, and there's some good company there with guys like Chris Olave that are making a case for that honor as well. But he's been absolutely electric. I think his hands are rock solid. He's been getting open, really been the go-to guy for Sean Clifford in that offense. He's going to be down there in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, going to be showing out his talents. And I think he's got a lot of desirable qualities. He can get it done after the catch. Like I said, his hands are great. You don't expect a guy that's as small as he is to make as many plays in the air as he does. And like I said, that route running, he's been paying more attention to detail this year. He's been beating single coverage consistently. He gets open in zone. He's a smart guy, and he's for real. I mean, he's legit day 2, maybe even late first round kind of draft pick.
He is a legit draft prospect. You heard it here first from Scouting Lorenz. Now we're going to talk about another running back from Oregon himself, running back Travis Dye. Now, Dye had a huge game at Washington last week. The junior running back bowled over the Huskies for 211 rushing yards and scored a touchdown for the 4th straight game. He's been big for the Ducks this season through the yardage numbers, though the yardage numbers may not show that each week. 3 weeks ago, he rushed just for 35 yards against UCLA, but he found the end zone 4 times. He is a threat in the pass game as well and has taken on a much bigger role with C.J. Verdell out for the season with the leg injury. Oregon hosts Wazoo late Saturday night. But what are we looking for Travis Dye to come up with? What's his stat line looking like tonight?
Well, I mean, Dye's another guy who stepped up. I know Oregon, they've had that two-headed rushing attack for years and years there, and with C.J. Verdell, um, with C.J. Verdell out for the season, he's had to step up. A little bit of a shorter, smaller guy, just 190 pounds, but he runs hard. He's got good balance. He can stay on his feet, really good vision. And if that offensive line, they got a great positional blocking offensive line that's opening up holes for him, and he can get skinny through them. He can find those holes and capitalize. Don't think he has elite speed, which you want to see from a guy that's just 190. But like I said, I think he's been getting the job done. Love the swag with him too, not wearing gloves. I think like the only running back in college football that's not wearing gloves. Makes him real easy to pick out on film. But tonight, Washington State, they don't have the best defense. I think Oregon is going to beat him. I'm going 25 carries for Travis Dye, 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a big one.
Ooh, I like to hear that. I really, really like to hear that. Now we're going to be going to a game, Tennessee versus Georgia. We're looking at quarterback Hendon Hooker. Now, Tennessee still hasn't become a factor in the SEC race yet, but quarterback Hendon Hooker has quietly had a nice season. He's completing nearly 70% of his passes and thrown 21 touchdowns and 2 picks this season. He's a former Virginia Tech Hokie, and he transferred to Tennessee. Last week, the Volunteers ended a losing skid by upsetting Kentucky in Lexington, with Hooker going 15 for 20 for 316 yards and 4 touchdowns. It'll be interesting to see how effective he will be as the Vols welcome the top-ranked Georgia Bulldogs to Neyland Stadium. So, can Hendon Hooker pull off this upset?
Against how this Georgia defense has been playing this year, I mean, he's going to have not even a near perfect game. He's going to have a perfect game to have any chance to knock off Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, they've done an absolute phenomenal job. This is like history that us 3 gentlemen are literally watching the way this Georgia defense picks apart the quarterback, shuts down your running game, makes you one-dimensional. They did it against Dan Mullen's Florida Gators. They did it against Dabo Swinney's Clemson Tigers. They did it against Kentucky. They did it against Arkansas. I mean, you name any SEC opponent. Now, the interesting thing about it is that Georgia travels on the road tonight. Well, I really shouldn't say tonight because the game is at 3:30. So I think really if Tennessee had a shot at this game tonight, the game should have been at 7 or 8. I think with the game even being at 3:30, I think no matter who starts at quarterback for the Georgia Bulldogs, Dalvin Cook's brother, James Cook, and just give me that Georgia offense, give me that Georgia – anything you want to favor Georgia. This is definitely going to be Georgia all day. Now, the spread is almost 21 points, so maybe Tennessee does cover, but I don't see them flat out winning. And if
I don't see Tennessee winning either.
If you take them on the money line, you're a bold, bold man.
So, Lorenz, what have you seen from Hooker this season that makes him possibly a mid-round quarterback prospect?
Yeah, I was going to say I like him. He's got the big arm. He's got the size. I think he's got the mobility that teams really covet nowadays. And just another one of those guys. We look at Virginia Tech, which is where he came from. They have so much talent on this team, but have been kind of ridiculously bad for the last couple of years. And he gets out of that system, goes to Tennessee. Everyone expected Tennessee to flat out suck this season. That hasn't happened. They've been a good competitive football team. And he's been really accurate too. I think that's the big step that has allowed him. He's been more than just physical traits, which is what he was before. Been making sound decisions, been pushing the ball downfield with that big arm. I think he's another guy we talk about, like you said, potentially mid-round draft pick. He has a lot of the qualities that NFL teams look for to potentially develop in their system. I think he's someone who's not talked about enough, to be completely honest, in a quarterback class that has some depth but isn't really strong at the top. I think he's another one of those guys that we're going to say, hey, he's an intriguing day 3 kind of guy.
We're going to Utah with these 2 prospects. Center Nick Ford. I know the Miami Dolphins are looking to draft an offensive lineman who is very versatile, and Nick Ford just does that. He can play tackle, he can play guard, he can play center. So Nick Ford, I know with Sports Illustrated NFL Draft Bible, you guys wrote up a scouting report on Nick Ford already. But Lorenz, what does his profile look like, and does that translate to the NFL?
Yeah, he's a big, nasty, physical kind of guy. Pretty much everything the Dolphins look for. So, if we've seen them draft interior offensive linemen in the past, I think he's got the strength. He's got the power to create that vertical displacement, which is really rare for these offensive linemen. The leg drive, all those things. He's played everywhere for that offensive line. I think literally every single position he started at. I think outside of left tackle, but last week we go back to that matchup against Stanford. They absolutely bullied Stanford up front, and he was a big part of that. They got a good offensive line. Utah kind of rebuilding from losing all those seniors 2-3 years ago when they had a great team. Almost made the playoff there. But he's someone who I think Dolphin specific, they could maybe bring him in on day 3, say, hey, he might be a backup, but he can be a backup at all 3 positions and on all 3 interior positions, because I just don't see him as a tackle in the NFL. He just doesn't have that kind of athleticism, foot speed, but he can be a backup for all 3 positions inside for you. I think that versatility and that leadership, he started there for 4 years, is absolutely huge. And yeah, Nick Ford's a good prospect. Don't sleep on him.
And I'm looking for another Ute that who could be a Miami Dolphin, who I would absolutely love in this defense. And that would be linebacker Devin Lloyd. Now, he is a fantastic Mike backer that the Dolphins have been missing for a while now. He aligns as the Mike in that defense, and he primarily plays off the ball, as do all the Miami Dolphins linebackers. But he can play on the line of scrimmage, and he can rush the passer at times. He's long, he's athletic, he's got great range, good foot speed to run from the backside and red line to red line range. He's got great burst and can close the ball carrier in a hurry. He's got, above average ability to take on blocks, and he's strong and firm at the point of attack. He's an efficient mover and fluid in coverage. He shows good awareness in zone, which the Dolphins linebackers have been absolutely throttled in. They're getting beat in zone coverage, and he can get very good in depth with his drops with a closing burst on anything in front of him. And, his length allows him to make open field tackles with the ease. He's a fantastic blitzer. Now, the thing is, he needs to improve his overall instincts in the run game to become that, Mike linebacker everybody looks for within the first 2 to 3 rounds. He's often over-aggressive, and he'll overrun his lane, leaving room for cutbacks and outside runs. And he sometimes takes inconsistent angles to the football at times. So how can Devin Lloyd improve his draft stock, Lorenz?
Man, sound like you were reading off my scouting report there, because that's exactly what I think about Devin Lloyd. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you talk about what he can do, line up there. He's the Mike for them. I think he'd be even better at that weak side linebacker spot. I think what's impressive about Lloyd is that he has gotten better every year. You turn on the 2019 film, don't really see it, solid college backer, but you don't see the NFL impact. 2020, you see a lot more. You see him making plays and coverage with that length, 6'3", and in pursuit with his athleticism and speed. This year's taken another step. He's been doing everything for that defense, been one of the best players every single week in all of college football. And look, I think he's just someone who has got to continue to get better in the run game to really become an elite run defender. I think he does plenty for you, especially in zone coverage. He's very good. As you said, he can gain depth. He can get into throwing lanes. He can break on the football. Can you make plays in the backfield consistently? He has this year at the Pac-12 level. I'm still missing a little bit from him taking on blocks, stacking blocks, and really being there, not 99% of the time, but having his eyes in the right place 100% of the time. And then I think he could be a very, very much a quality starter in the NFL. And it's a weak, I would say, linebacker draft. So he might be the best one, depending on who comes out of the underclassmen. So Devin Lloyd's a good player.
So we're going back on these last 2 prospects back to the Georgia-Tennessee game, and I'm looking at cornerback Alontae Taylor right here. He's comfortable playing away from the line of scrimmage and shows great short area quickness, breaking downhill on the throw. He's really, really good in run support, and a lot of teams will look to possibly play him in the slot because of that run support. He plays very, very physical, whether it be in press man, in run support, or in zone. and he's a long, lengthy corner. So his traits alone will get him looked at by some NFL teams. And he's got some good tape, even though he's fairly new to this position. What's your report on Alontae Taylor?
Love this kid. Absolutely love this kid. You talked about the physicality for him in run support. I think it pops off the tape. Some of the best plays you'll see from any cornerback in college football in run support. Really, his mental alertness, his intelligence, it really shows up. You can see that he puts in time in the film room and makes plays on the football, whether that's breaking down, coming downhill to the flat, or breaking on the football in zone coverage. I think he could do both for you. I don't think he's a consistent press man kind of corner, which that's the guys that go first round. Look at the Derek Stingleys, the J.C. Horns last year. Those kind of guys that can just man up with your number one all game. But I think for him, a guy in that sort of press bail scheme, maybe a Seattle scheme, I see those teams really value him highly. He's got the long arms. He can do it at the line of scrimmage. I don't think he's consistently elite mirroring guys in man coverage. I think that's the knock you have on him. But I like Alontae Taylor a ton. Also, special guy off the field. He was voted to the SEC Leadership Council by his peers. Few players get on that, and they give him credit at the SEC, say he was a big part for them even playing in 2020. So I think he checks a lot of boxes. I think he's going to be a starting corner in that, like I said, press bail kind of scheme at the next level.
All right, and let's go ahead. Let's round it off with your favorite player. I'll let you go ahead, take away. Talk about your guy here, Travon Walker.
Man, he's just one of my favorite guys. Watching him over the summer, and then how much he's progressed this year as well. You look at him there. Last year they had him at 6'6", 290. This year he's down to 275, playing on the edge, especially on early downs. A lot more. Look at the length on this guy. You can kind of see it on this picture. He's got an elite long arm move. If he gets into the chest of offensive linemen, he's pretty tough to block. Extremely strong. I mean, one-on-ones, you see him driving back blockers consistently just with that power rush, converting speed to power. But I think he's someone who the athleticism, especially in a straight line, is really underrated with him. You see him get off, especially last year at 290. There were just times I was watching the film and thinking 290 pounds should not get off as quickly as he does. And in run support as well, he controls gaps. He's a great fit for Miami kind of defense, that New England kind of style where you need to two gap at times up front. He does a great job of that. Again, using that length, using that athleticism. He's been a difference maker on special teams as well for this team, which is nuts at that size. But I mean, Travon Walker, they drop him into coverage now. That's how freaky athletic this guy is. Got that tip on the Florida game on Anthony Richardson on that interception that Nolan Smith came away with. I think he's got rare special traits. Is his hand placement off at times? Does he not rush with the perfect rush plan? Does he not always take what the offensive lineman has given him? Absolutely. But we got to remember he's 21 years old or even just 20. He's a young guy. And he's going to be someone who I think by his second, third year in the league, you might be looking at a Pro Bowl caliber player.
Ooh, yeah. I like to hear that, and I like to hear that. Well, Lorenz, thank you so much for coming on, and everybody, thank you for tuning in and watching. Brandon, where can everybody find us at?
So, always be sure to follow first our personal Twitter handles. So did myself a follow. That's at capital BRANDON, capital R, capital L, and lowercase IGUORI. And then Hussam Patel at HUSSAMPATEL. These are the Fin Maniacs gurus. But I mean, hey, we do it. We do it great.
Brandon thinks our viewers can spell. That's so disrespectful of you, Brandon.
Hey,
it's right here on the screen.
Hey, sometimes people don't even look at the Twitter handles. So you gotta just sometimes spell it out so people physically see it, people hear it. You gotta spell out letter by letter.
Of course, and Lorenz, I know you have a couple podcasts as well with your co-host Kellen, and we're gonna make sure Kellen comes on one of these days as well. He is super, super smart in scouting as well. I know you have a podcast called In the Film Room, or what else is it called? I know that there's a fun play with the name there as well.
Yeah, it's in the film room with Kellen and Lorenz, as what it's called. You guys got to have Kellen on. I mean, as you said, he's a super smart kid. He plays quarterback for the Ohio State club football team, and is just a great guy. We have a lot of conversations around college football, covering rookies. Like I said, it's on Spotify, Apple, really wherever you can get it. Go subscribe, leave us those 5 stars. If you like it, check out a couple episodes. The last one got heated as we got into the college football playoff and the committee there a little bit. That go follow that. Would be really thankful. And also follow the Twitter, if you like the draft, if you like college football, if you like NFL trench play, anything like that, I got you covered on there. And thanks so much for having me, fellas.
Of course, Lorenz. Before we go, speaking of being covered, go ahead, check out our sponsor, BetUS. You get 150% on your best 200% crypto as well. So if you're a degenerate bettor, go ahead, check out BetUS and win some money on these college games and NFL. That's all, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to enjoy your football Saturday. Relive this Victory Friday dub against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm Hussam Patel with my co-host, Brandon Liguori. Fins up, everybody.
Fins up, everyone.